How much muscle mass can you put on in just 1 year of training? In my experience, my first year of training, I went from 154 pounds to about 190 something pounds. So I put on about 40 pounds of muscle, and 7 months into my training, I had my body fat percentage checked and I was 9.1% body fat. So I was like super lean, and the muscle mass, basically the mass that I gained was mostly muscle mass. So I went from 154 pounds to 190 something pounds, training mostly upper body. So I didn't train legs for the first 7 months of the training. I didn't train legs, and then I only trained legs like 5 months in later after that point. And also I mostly just focused on the 7 aesthetic muscles, right? So with that kind of training, I put on about 40 pounds of lean muscle and mostly upper body muscle, right? So let me go through basically the processes of what I did, right? So my training was centered around the 7 aesthetic muscles, right? Which are neck, upper traps, lateral delts, upper chest, biceps, abs, obliques, and lats, right? Those are the 7 aesthetic muscles, and the reason why I trained the 7 aesthetic muscles, these are basically the muscles that like girls find the most attractive, right? And these are basically the muscles that are going to get me girls, to shorten and simplify things, right? These are the muscles that will get you the most amount of female attention, female attraction, and that's the reason I focused on these muscles alone, right? So in about a year of training, my diet was mostly just lean protein, carbs. Of course, we'd have carbs before the gym, and the carbs that I ate was just rice, right? So, like, to simplify it, rice and lean protein, potatoes and like lean chicken, whatever, right? This is the type of like meals that I ate in my 1 year of training, right? And I put on 40 pounds, give or take, right? So realistically, how much muscle can you put on, right? Because I've already told you how much I put on. I think if you really went to the gym 5 times a week, you really did the right training. Unlike me, you focused on all the muscle groups like the legs and triceps and whatever, you would probably be able to put on about the same amount of muscle mass, right? And also, like, the reason why I really prioritized the 7 aesthetic muscles, right? When I went to the gym, I wanted to see results fast, and not only did I want to see results fast, I wanted to see real life results, right? I didn't just want to go to the gym and like lie to myself and be like, yeah, I'm going to the gym, I want to feel healthy, I want to do this for myself so that I can feel healthy and feel good, whatever the fuck, right? I want to see real life results. I wanted to see more girls looking at me, I wanted to see more girls staring at me, and I wanted to see more girls being into me, right? So like, my training was not only just like super specific, right? I was just obsessed with results. So like, my supplements intake was on point. I never missed like days of taking supplements. I never missed days of training. I basically just like really tapped in on everything. My recovery was on point. I did have like periods where I would sleep like 10 hours, 11, 12 hours a day, right? Just like maximizing on sleep. I did like extra gym tricks and tips, whatever. I used the sauna, I used massage chairs to try and really just maximize recovery to the point where like I had the best recovery. My training was super intensive. Like, I was progressively overloading. I was training really hard. Things like creatine, I always made sure that I took my creatine each and every single day. I actually used to keep my creatine, so this is like a separate tip, but this is like super helpful, right? You might want to start doing this. So like, I have my creatine right here. So let me just grab it for you. I have my creatine right here, right? I have my creatine right here. So you see where I just grab my creatine. This is where I keep my creatine, right? So I always make sure that my creatine is somewhere where I can see it, somewhere where I can always access it, right? Because I always used to forget to take creatine. So like the thing that I started doing is I started making it somewhere where it's like it's always in my line of vision, right? So like right now it stays right here where I've just picked it up, but sometimes I'd even keep it here on my work desk, right, where my laptop is, whatever, right? So like every single moment of the day, I would just be like anything that I do every time I'm in my room, I would see the creatine and I would never forget to take it, right? So I kept my creatine here. I would always take the creatine, and also like I've already given you a tip about creatine, but I'm going to give you another extra tip about creatine. I didn't just take 5 grams of creatine. So 5 grams of creatine is like the recommended amount or something like that, right? So it's like a flattened scoop of creatine. That's 5 grams of creatine. I took more of like 8 grams of creatine. So like it's just like a heaped scoop of creatine instead of like a flattened scoop, right? Because like 5 grams is like for the average human being who's like 50 kgs, and like it doesn't account for like weight and height and whatever, right? So this is like a whole separate side point that I've just gotten into. But I was just like this much committed into making sure that everything that I did was as optimum as possible, because back then I wanted to see results as fast as possible, right? And for me, as fast as possible was like a year of training, right? So I trained, I optimized my supplements intake, I optimized my recovery, my training was on point. I trained the 7 aesthetic muscles, and I got like very, very good progress in them. Like you never hear anyone who tells you about like neck training or something like that. But I was training my neck, I was training my traps. You see, like when I started, my neck was super, super thin. Like I had a super, super skinny neck. But now I have like a developed neck. So that like a trained neck, my traps, no one, like basically most people don't even know that there's something called trap training, right? But if you look at my traps, look at that. Traps developed, right? So it's like all these muscles were getting like specific training, right? Because like these muscles are like there is no, they're called like the aesthetic muscles, right? If you put it into like real life terms, right? Things like neck and t-shirt, when you put on, I mean neck and traps, when you put on a t-shirt, right, they're always visible. So like if your neck and traps are like visible and they're like muscular and trained, right, you're gonna get like extra attention from girls. And like if you go out, if you go into like a club or something, if you go in a hoodie or if you go into in a sweater, whatever, your neck and traps will be visible. So like you still be able to get like that extra advantage and get like that extra attention, because like you have like thick traps and neck, whatever, right? So whole side point. But yeah, actually that's not a side point, that's that aligns to what we're talking about. So that's the reason why I focused on muscles like neck and traps, and also like I guess that would add on to like the extra muscle mass gained from the amount of muscle mass that I could gain in a whole year of training, right? So this is basically most of what I did. I already spoke about the diet, which was like mostly just lean protein and rice and maybe oats or something before the gym. And then my training has been centered around the 7 aesthetic muscles. After 7 months of training, I then included other things like legs, forearms, triceps, right, to try and develop those as well. And so, yeah, to answer the question, how much muscle can you gain? I would say somewhere in the neighborhood of like 30 pounds. I don't know, 30 pounds give or take. If you are as obsessive as I was in my first year of training, and you really try to optimize everything to a T, right, then you can have like an extra 10 pounds, right? If you really try to optimize your recovery, like you go to the sauna every day, you go get massage chairs, you go to the massage chairs to try and increase like your recovery, you never miss creatine, you always take protein powder, you take pre-workout before going to the gym, you progressively overload, you train like all these muscles, like you train neck, traps, forearms, whatever, right? You train all the muscles, right? Like you can put on like an extra 10 pounds of muscle, right? And like if you really try and optimize everything, right? So That was the video for today. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel.